What's up, friends? Welcome back to another episode of NFT 365. We are brought to you by the Crypto Business Conference. Crypto Business Conference is for those creators, marketers, small business owners that are looking to level up on everything Web3 and NFTs. And excited to have them on board. Make sure you check them out. And the beauty of this whole roller coaster that we're on is that we get to ride it together. And I appreciate and really just want to thank all the people that are listening to the show each and every day. We had an amazing superpower hour last night over on Twitter Spaces, which we do every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. for anyone that is interested in joining that. And it's actually funny because that show usually gives me a little bit of inspiration or motivation or even ideas for some of the podcast episodes. But I'll actually say it was actually what went down prior to the actual superpower hour that actually I wanted to kind of cover today. And that was like a brand delivering a really great NFT experience. Well, I guess let's not say great. A much better NFT experience than majority of brands have, but doing it in a Web 2/Web 3 way. And the shout out definitely goes to Nickelodeon and Rugrats. And what I found interesting about this, really just this rollout or this launch, and it's the first of many, is that they designed an on website, on the Nickelodeon site, marketplace, and have been kind of teasing it out, and they joined forces with the Recur NFT collection, which is the Recur is one of the NFT collections that I have, which is gives us access to some of the I would say more brand focused NFT drops like Star Trek and a couple others that I've got into over the many months. But what they did really well, Nickelodeon, I felt, was that when you went to the website for the launch, it was very traditional Web 2 feeling, right? You could scroll, in USD, how much these different NFTs were worth. They had an entire section called How It Works, which kind of walked people through like, hey, this is the process. And then they also kind of, included these packs that you could actually jump into. Now, no drop is perfect. Let's just be very clear on that. And, I know a lot of people that tried to jump into it and it sold out right away. Guess what? I was one of them. I had no secret sauce. I went on there, right? I was loaded up, ready to purchase. And whenever I hit, the buy button, it just spun and spun and spun for a while. And then by the time it timed out, the collection was already sold out. Now, that's just part of this space. And I know a lot of people get like really bitter and they get upset and they're like, this is the worst experience ever. If you've ever bought tickets online, if you've ever bought an iPhone on iPhone drop day, if you've ever bought sneakers, I feel like last year I was trying, through the sneaker app, I must have been like 0-27 before I finally, hit the button at the right time and I was able to order one of the, premium sneakers on the sneaker app. And so just the idea of that limited supply, that's part of this entire piece of this whole puzzle. The other thing that I thought, they did really well was they also had their kind of social media really ramped up for this, right? So they were announcing things leading up. They had a countdown. You could actually sign up and register ahead of time to get the email notifications. They also rolled out some things, for those that had certain levels, right? So they had certain leveled, kind of drops that were rolling out over the next many, days and such. The other thing that I thought, that they did, really well was they also, it lives on ERC20 token. So it is available in OpenSea. And actually what I did is I jumped over to OpenSea and I noticed there was a ton for sale. And the immediate mint price was about 0.22, or not mint price, the secondary floor price. But I also noticed that there were ones that were coveted for certain Rugrats that were coveted over other ones. And so I actually went back to the marketplace and kind of dove into what were the total amounts, what were the ones that people were willing to buy or sell for a higher price. And you can, on their marketplace, you can sell it for USD on their marketplace, or you can list it on OpenSea as well. And so what I did was I just kind of watched some of the trends, watched one of the collections as far as how they went. And then I realized that a couple of them were more rare. So I was looking for ones that were more rare that were recently listed, and I picked one up there on the secondary market. And like most of these things, as the drop kind of sold out and the collection was minted onto OpenSea, the prices dropped down, and then as kind of like the buzz and momentum started to pick back up, the mint price, the floor price went back up. And the floor price, I woke up this morning, it was about 0.34. I believe I bought the Frankie that I bought was, I believe, at 0.2 or 0.22. But more so than anything, what I thought was important from the drop was they allowed email registration. They teamed up with an existing pass to give kind of people that had a certain pass early access. They also allowed you to register, and it did look very Web 2 friendly, just like you would buy a Web 2 collectible on any other website via USD. And then they also walked you through very nicely on like how that would end up in your wallet and how that whole process kind of comes down. But the other thing that I just think is important when it comes to this whole process is they also were already planning for the future. They already had things set up. So like when you looked in their marketplace, it said like Series 1, Series 2, it had the different collections. And part of that to me is actually what ended up pushing me over the line to actually purchase this, right? Because at first I was like, oh, this is just, another random, nostalgia play. Nickelodeon's just tapping into all of us millennials that loved, grew up with Rugrats. But what I will say is like their ability to show like, hey, we invested in a marketplace. Hey, we invested in education and ways to bring our Web 2 community into the fold. But they also made it Web 3 friendly, right? Because I can buy and sell on OpenSea. And they also were planning for the future and demonstrating that, putting that out there, kind of what they're, and this was more than a roadmap, right? This is like, a roadmap is saying what you're going to do. This was showing what they have planned, right? And I think that's a piece that we can all learn from. The other part of this, and it goes back even, I minted the Stephen Curry Under Armour NFT. I think it's called Basketball Heads. I have to remember off the top of my head. I had to go back and look. We minted that a couple of weeks ago here for the podcast on buying an NFT every day. And one of the things that I really liked on that collection was they had like not only different storytelling, but they had different ways for you to customize your PFP rather than it being traditionally generative. But the thing that I also liked that Nintendo did was they also allowed they had like a pack opening experience. And then they had kind of like a merging experience into the generative pieces that were for each one of the characters of the Rugrats. And so I want to put this out there for anyone that's thinking about launching an NFT project, or you're working with a brand or an agency. One of the things that we really have to welcome in is that we have to understand what is that brand affinity? How do we tap into that, but also make it Web 3? But also understand the onboarding, right? And I think that whole process takes a lot of work. And I don't know how long the Nickelodeon team, put into this process. I don't know how much the Recur team was involved along the line. But even the generative component, right? Which means the different layers on top of the art, I thought were really well done. And they really, spoke to, me. I remember, Rugrats. I actually remember I got grounded one day because I think I wasn't allowed to let my youngest brother watch Rugrats with me. And I gave in one time and I let him, and I remember my parents grounded me because they had told me not to do that. And so looking at that art, there was lots of that throwback, a lot of that connection. But the other part of this that we also have to think about, from extending our brand is that storytelling and the way that we amplify and celebrate across social media, across our channels. And that's a lot harder said than done. And there's a difference between storytelling and celebrating our community and marketing our projects on our social media channels or across our website. And I think a lot of the conversation ends up being about the marketing towards the new audience or to people that are coming on. But right now, I'm sure there are a lot of people, maybe even some of you that are listening to the podcast, that are oh my goodness, I didn't even know Nickelodeon had an NFT drop. and now you're maybe Googling it, or you're jumping over to OpenSea, or maybe you're going to the Nickelodeon social media channels. Well, right there, like when someone splashes onto that channel, you have to ask yourself, like, what is the story I am telling? Where am I sending people? And part of that comes into like link trees and some of the link things that exist within collections, right? Some of it is a little too confusing, while others is a little bit, too simple. The other part that I think we have to really recognize when it comes to, growth is now what Nickelodeon's, I think Nickelodeon has the hard job now, right? Like right now is like, hey, we're riding the hype. But I would say a week from now, those that spent money, maybe more money than I've ever spent on an NFT before or on a digital collectible before, are going to ask themselves, like, why did I join this? What is the benefit for getting this NFT? What is the benefit for holding it? And then the other part of it is like, how do I connect with others, right? I will tell you, like, as soon as I changed my profile photo to the Rugrat that I added to my collection, the amount of people like, oh my goodness, I love your PFP. Like, I love this part of the Rugrats. I remember my good buddy Sean jumped into our Twitter space, and he was like, Brian, I love that. He's like, this is my daughter's and I's favorite song from the Rugrats movie, and he named the Rugrats song. But what I really am excited to see, and what I'm going to hope for, and it might not be Nickelodeon, but maybe it is. I think this is where real storytelling, real community nurturing starts to kind of expand. And like, I like little things that and Nickelodeon did this on their Twitter. They were like, hey, reply with your favorite Rugrat, and we're going to give away a couple of things. And then they're like, tell us the story of when you think of Rugrats, like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Now, for some of us, like the NFT project that we're launching, maybe that doesn't have brand affinity like that, right? It doesn't have the nostalgia that, that Rugrats can kind of tap into. But what you do have is that you have a purpose. And I've talked a lot about that on this podcast, that you have to connect your purpose to your community. And I think one of the best ways to do that is those thought-provoking questions, those ways of enabling and fostering conversations. And I will tell you, shout out to my BFF project. I believe they do it every day, or maybe it's Monday through Friday. I have to look. They do kind of like a thought-provoking question into their Discord every single day, and it's to get like the community talking, but it's to get people telling stories and putting themselves out there. But the other thing, and this is like where I'm excited for where we can go, is that the more of that collaborative co-creation, co-communication, or what I like to say, the more participatory content, right? Twitter spaces, live video, Discord live spaces. The more that you do those, the more you get to know your community, get to understand, like, what is their average age? Why did they buy the NFT? And, before you launch, a lot of it is like trying to predict and trying to guess and throwing things out there. But after you launch, it's now your job to understand who are your owners, who are your holders, and then make that connection to that purpose, to that, that shared passion for that, desired outcome that exists together. And then the last thing is, I would now, like, if I was Rugrats and Nickelodeon, I would already be planning a, South by Southwest activation for our NFT holders of Rugrats. I would already be planning for the November London NFT, instead of NFT NYC, it's NFT London put on by the same group. I would already be planning for an activation there. And I would also, if I were them, I would also really think about, like, what is the consistent communication methodology that we can deliver across our channels for our community, right? And I mean, I think there are, I could tell you a number of ways, right, that you could really bring your audience in. And I think the hardest part, and this is where I will kind of leave this one at, is that for Nickelodeon and for Rugrats, like, what their struggle is there isn't a human connection that we have at the moment. But all of you NFT project founders, many of you that are listening to this podcast right now, it's you, right? Like, you get to be the storyteller, the person that builds the trust. And when times are good, maybe you don't need that. But when times are bad, or when there's crisis, or when someone's trying to decide if it's valuable anymore to hold their NFT, if they know that their connection is to a person, not just a logo or a brand, it has a completely different feeling, a completely different emotional alignment. And I believe that's why we as creators do have that leg up. Now, if I was Nintendo, I would work with maybe a couple influencers, maybe some hosts of some different shows, and bring them in and let them tell the stories and host conversations within the community, right? And I think you can do that with, they could probably tap into some of their already, celebrities that they have on their roster. But even if you just empowered some of your most passionate fans, right, over the next month, listen to those that are really active in your community, talking about, Rugrats and start fostering conversations amongst other people. And then reach out to them and bring them on board and help them, tell that story, put a face on the brand. Because that is still a massive limitation. And in NFTs, more so than anything else, I really believe that is essential for building trust, scaling trust, but probably most importantly, maintaining trust over a long period of time. As you guys know, we are sponsored by the Crypto Business Conference. It is happening in San Diego, which I'm excited to head to San Diego. And I'll tell you, another one of the things that I really love about that Crypto Business Conference and what they're pulling together is that they have fostered kind of an environment that not only empowers networking and has booths and very experienced event creators, but they've also created like an environment where speakers and hosts want to stay and participate not only just when they're on stage, but throughout the event. And that's no easy task. And I, for one, I can tell you, I've spoken at that event for 7 years, and I've stayed every single day of the event. I get there on day one and I stay for however many days it is. And that's a rare feat. And part of that is because not only is it, great curated content, but it's also that environment that is not too big, but also not too small, that allows a lot of those things to happen. So really looking forward to that. I will be there, of course, that entire time at that event. And lastly, I'll leave you with this. The journey that we are all on, not only are we all growing and we're all finding different things within us, but I in the Twitter space last night, we had multiple people come up and say, Brian, I listened to the podcast and your podcast prevented me from quitting because I was spammed, or got my NFTs stolen, or I was overrun by the bro culture that exists inside of some of the crypto and NFT spaces. And a lot of people have reached out and just thanked the team and I for this content. But I have to thank you for sharing those stories. I have to thank you for having the courage and the dedication to learn, to listen, to sign up, to show up and listen to this podcast each and every day. And also just the courage to embrace the education and curiosity that we have around us. There are a lot of people that want to change, a lot of people that want to change their financial freedom, a lot of people that want to love what they do and do what they love. But sadly, there's not a lot of people that take action. There's not a lot of people that are willing to put in the work. There are not a lot of people to be okay being not okay, or getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And so for all of those of you who are on that journey and you're walking through this path, I tip my hat to you. I say, keep on keeping on. I do believe that we got this. I believe together we are going to continue to learn, to grow, to inspire, to motivate, of course, to educate. But more so than anything else, it's giving us an opportunity to really recreate a future that I think all of us want to be a part of. Until tomorrow, my friends, make it a great day. Cheers. Ooh. See, power outage can't stop me. All right, so I got the mobile recorder here, recorded that audio on mobile. All right, that recording is done. All right, there we go. Recorded the video on the iPhone using cinematic mode and recorded the audio on my portable pod tracker. Power outage, trees down around my house can stop me. Cheers.